It was the middle of the night when I got the call that made my blood run cold. My neighbor, someone I barely trusted, had somehow turned my own home into a short-term rental without my permission. I froze for a moment, staring at my phone in disbelief. How could this happen? How could anyone access my house without me knowing? I had lived in that neighborhood for over a decade, and I knew every inch of my property. Yet now, strangers were sleeping in my living room, walking through my kitchen, using my things as if they belonged to them. I grabbed a flashlight and my keys, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anger. Every step toward my front door felt heavier than the last. The night was silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hum of a street lamp. I had to see it for myself. I had to confirm this nightmare. As I approached the house, a faint light flickered through the curtains, shadows moving unnervingly. My stomach twisted. The front door looked untouched, but I noticed the small details that betrayed someone's presence. A shoe print on the welcome mat that wasn't mine, the faint scent of someone else in the air. I tried calling out, but only my echo answered. My hands shook as I fumbled with the lock. Then I saw it. A note taped to the inside of the door. Reading, check in at 10 p.m., enjoy your stay. My blood ran cold. Someone had literally turned my home into a business without my knowledge. I pushed the door open slowly, flashlight in hand, and stepped inside. Every creak of the floorboards seemed deafening. The living room was rearranged slightly, a small suitcase left on the couch as if a guest had just dropped in. My kitchen counters had remnants of snacks I didn't buy. Someone had been here. Someone was here. The adrenaline coursing through me made my mind race. I couldn't just stand by. My property, my home, my sanctuary had been violated, and I needed answers fast. Then I heard the faint sound of movement upstairs. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't just dealing with some online scam. I could actually confront whoever had invaded my home. Slowly, cautiously, I crept up the stairs, flashlight cutting through the darkness, every shadow feeling like it was about to leap at me. And that's when I saw it. The unmistakable silhouette of someone moving inside my bedroom. My pulse hit a peak I'd never felt before, and instinct took over. I froze at the top of the stairs, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The silhouette in my bedroom shifted again, and a sinking realization hit me. This wasn't just a random guest. Whoever had taken over my home knew exactly what they were doing. I could see the glint of a phone in their hand, probably taking pictures or coordinating with someone else. My first instinct was to shout, to demand they leave, but fear rooted me in place. I took a deep breath and forced myself to move closer, careful not to make a sound. Every step felt like it would echo through the empty house, giving away my position. I needed to think fast. Calling the police seemed logical, but I didn't want these strangers to slip away before authorities could act. And more than that, I was enraged. Someone had invaded my sanctuary, and I wasn't going to let them get away without accountability. When I reached the doorway to my bedroom, I flicked the light on. The figure froze instantly. It was Karen, the HOA president. My stomach dropped. Of all the people I could have expected, it had to be her. Karen, with her smug smile and sense of entitlement, had somehow decided to monetize my home behind my back. She wasn't just breaking rules, she was crossing a line that could not be ignored. I didn't think you'd come home tonight, she stammered, clearly startled. Her voice had that fake innocence she often wore when manipulating neighbors. I just needed to rent it out for a few nights. Help with community funds. My hands tightened around the flashlight. This is my home. Karen, you can't just list it online and let strangers walk in while I'm not here. This is illegal. She waved a hand dismissively, as if that somehow excused her behavior. It's all above board. The HOA will back me up. Think of it as community enhancement. I felt my anger rise, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed proof, and now I had it. She hadn't expected me to catch her in the act. This was my opportunity to document everything, to make sure she couldn't spin the story later. I slowly reached for my phone, pretending to step closer to her, careful not to provoke her into destroying evidence. Karen's face flickered between confidence and panic. "Look, maybe we can work something out." "Work something out?" I repeated, voice steady but cold. "You've violated my trust, my privacy, and my property. There's no working something out here." She faltered, realizing her game was over. I snapped pictures of the room, the suitcase, even the note she had left. Karen's smirk vanished, replaced by a tense, forced composure. I knew the next steps would involve more than words. This was now a matter of proof, of holding her accountable before more damage could be done. After confronting Karen in my bedroom, I realized that this wasn't just about catching her in the act. It was about building a record of her actions. I couldn't just rely on my word. I needed undeniable evidence. I pulled out my phone, snapping pictures of the note, the suitcase, and every little sign that someone had been living in my home without my consent. Each click of the camera felt like a strike against her, a tangible record of her violation. Once the immediate confrontation was over, Karen retreated to the living room, muttering about community rules and HOA oversight, but I wasn't listening. I needed proof of her intent. I started searching for clues she might have left behind. Emails, rental agreements, anything that tied her directly to this unauthorized short-term rental. On my laptop, I discovered listings she had posted online, complete with my address, photos of my living room, and her contact information disguised as a property manager. My blood boiled. This wasn't just reckless. It was deliberate. Next, I checked my security cameras. I had installed them months ago, mostly for peace of mind, but now they were my strongest allies. The footage showed Karen entering my home multiple times over the past week, letting strangers in, taking pictures, and even rearranging furniture to make it rental-ready. Each clip was damning, a visual record of someone abusing their authority in the most personal way possible. I saved everything onto a secure drive. I knew that if this escalated, I'd need it for law enforcement or possibly legal action. The realization hit me. Karen had been exploiting her HOA position to benefit financially, completely disregarding my rights as a homeowner. I felt violated, angry, and determined to make sure this never happened again. Just as I finished securing the evidence, I noticed her lingering near the doorway, trying to act casual. "I don't think you understand how HOA agreements work," she said, her tone shifting to that patronizing, superior attitude she loved to use. "I understand perfectly," I replied, keeping my voice calm but firm. "And now I have proof. You've crossed the line, Karen. This isn't about HOA rules anymore. It's about legal boundaries," she faltered, realizing the gravity of the situation. The smug confidence she usually carried was gone, replaced by a wary, almost fearful look. For the first time, I saw her as someone vulnerable, someone who could be held accountable. As I backed toward the door, I knew the next steps would involve more than just confrontation. I had the evidence, but now I needed to take action, to report this to the authorities, to protect my home, and to make sure Karen couldn't manipulate her way out. I felt a mix of fear and empowerment, knowing that the coming hours would decide whether justice or chaos would prevail in my own home. With the evidence secured, I knew it was time to act. I called the police, keeping my voice calm but firm, explaining that my home had been illegally used as a short-term rental, without my consent. Within minutes, officers were on their way, their presence bringing a strange mix of relief and anticipation. I watched Karen's face closely as I relayed the facts. Every detail of her intrusion, every unauthorized guest, every manipulative excuse she had tried to use. She had no room to deny it. When the police arrived, Karen tried to maintain her composure, insisting she was acting in the neighborhood's best interest. But the officers were unimpressed. They reviewed my security footage, the photos I had taken, and the listings she had posted online. Each piece of evidence painted a clear picture: an HOA president abusing her position to exploit someone else's property. Karen's voice faltered, and her attempts at charm and persuasion fell flat. For the first time, she faced consequences she couldn't twist to her advantage. The officers escorted her out of my home, giving her a stern warning. that this type of behavior was illegal and that legal action could follow. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, my home was mine again. It was no longer a place where strangers walked in without permission, no longer a pawn in Karen's manipulative schemes. I could breathe. Even after the police left, I spent the rest of the night walking through my home, checking every room, ensuring nothing had been taken or damaged. The experience had shaken me, but it had also strengthened my resolve. I realized how vulnerable a home can be when someone abuses authority, and how important it is to stand up, gather evidence, and act decisively. The next day, I contacted the HOA board, sharing all the proof I had gathered. The response was swift. Karen was put on immediate suspension pending an internal investigation, and the board assured me that she would face consequences for her abuse of power. I had turned a terrifying, invasive situation into a moment of accountability. Weeks later, I received confirmation that Karen had been formally removed from her position, and the legal warning I filed against her was being taken seriously. Strangers no longer had access to my home, and the lingering fear that had haunted me was replaced with empowerment. I had protected my property, my privacy, and my peace of mind. Sitting in my living room that evening, I reflected on what had happened. The fear, the confrontation, the evidence gathering, it all led to one undeniable truth. Standing up for yourself is never easy, but it is always necessary. My home was mine again, and this time, I knew I would never let anyone take that from me. The nightmare was over, but the lesson stayed with me, clear and powerful. Vigilance and courage are your best defense against those who abuse power. Wow! Can you believe what happened? If you enjoyed this story and want to see more wild HOA Karen encounters, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Drop a comment below telling us what you would do if this happened to you. We love reading your thoughts. And don't forget to like this video if you thought this story was shocking. Your support really helps us keep bringing these crazy neighborhood stories to life.